today I'm going to be talking about actually making quotes and setting up quotes because we've done so much research in our papers. It'll be short, but we're going to use it as a metaphor of a sandwich. Okay? So you have your top bun when we go to quote. Using your paper, what is the top bun? What's the top bun? Amelia?
It says introduce it.
Introduce it. You're going to introduce it. And I'll explain what that means in a second. Then you have the actual stuff in the sandwich here. What is the stuff in the sandwich? Brecken? The actual quotes, the quotations. And then what's the bottom bun?
Explain it.
What was that, Isaac? Explain. You're going to explain it. So anytime you have a quote and you're going to use a quote in your paragraph, in your writing, you need to introduce the quote. You don't just want to go throw it out there. And then you're going to actually give the quote. And then you're going to talk about the quote. You're going to explain it. Okay? If you flip it, don't flip it over yet. If you look at the top bun, the explanation for introduce it, it says what? Can somebody read that for us? Somebody read the top bun, the explanation of what's in there for me? Amelia, give it a shot. Follow along with Amelia as you go. So take your finger, put it on that first word. On the count of 3, you're going to tell me what the first word is. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Before. Perfect. Okay. Amelia, go ahead. Follow along.
Before adding your quote, introduce it with a signal phrase and a reporting verb.
With a signal phrase and a reporting verb. So, a signal phrase. Anybody know what a signal phrase is? Heard of a signal phrase before? What's a signal do? What's a signal do? Lila, what does a signal do? What is a signal?
Alert someone.
It alerts you. So, what might a signal phrase do? What is it doing? Cadence?
Maybe if you know what's gonna happen.
It's about to let you know there's going to be a quote. A signal phrase is just letting you know. So if you turn your paper over to the back side, on that box it says signal phrases. You see that big box right there? What are some examples of signal phrases? According to.
To be or not to be.
Okay. According to. Emmett, what's another signal phrase?
Agrees.
Agrees would be the reporting verb. Try the other side, the other box. It says signal phrases at the top. Something like in her article, or in his or her article. Okay? What's another signal phrase? Brayden, what's another one from our little box there?
Suggest that.
Blank suggests that. So we have a name. Suggests that. Another one could be in the opinion of. Boom. You give a name. Those are signal phrases. What might a reporting verb do? What might a reporting verb do? So the explanation in the introduction is we need a signal phrase. And then we need a reporting verb. What might those do? What might a reporting verb be? What's a verb? Nick?
An action word?
Yeah, it's like an action word, right? We have those reporting verbs on the other side. Peyton, what's one of those reporting verbs? Agrees, believes, compares, denies, endorses, refutes, responds, writes. So let's walk through how to do that. Okay? So say you're quoting me for your paper. Brecken, what's your topic?
Longer recesses.
Longer recesses. So Brecken wants my opinion on longer recesses. So he's going to come up to me and ask, Mr. Reed, what's your opinion on longer recesses? I can say something like, I think longer recess is a really beneficial idea for students. Brecken's going to have to write that down And then to add my quote in his paper, he's going to need to use the sandwich to put my idea in and give me credit for it. So, Brecken could say something like this. According to Mr. Reed. According to Mr. Reed, he, and now let's use one of those reporting verbs. Did I agree with Brecken? Yeah, right? I could say he agrees. He agrees. And I need to say something like stating, or he agrees and states. What does it mean to state something? Lila? You say it, right? I stated it. And states. And then we would need our quote. Now here comes the tricky part. So I'm putting this into two little sections here. But notice I put a comma after states, and then I start my quotation with a what? Amelia?
Quotation.
A quotation mark, right? So anytime I get anytime I use my signal phrase, I add my reporting verb, I need to put a what? Right before I start the quote. Two things, a comma and a quotation mark. Then I'm going to quote myself. So I'm going to make my quote different than what I said, because I don't remember. So I said something like, I believe I feel that extra recess is a good idea. End quote. Good? That sounds kind of similar to what I said before. Okay. So now think about the explain it section. So Brecken has stated, according to Mr. Reed, he agrees and states, I feel that extra recess is a good idea. What would Brecken need to do next in his paragraph? Levi?
Explain what that means.
He needs to explain what that means and why it's relevant to his argument. So, how could he explain my quote? How could he explain my quote?
He could explain that.
Let's go through this real quick. I want somebody to read the explain it paragraph for us. Ashley, can you read that? Excuse me, can you read that for us real quick? It starts with now, and I want you to follow along, and I want you to be able to explain to me how we're going to be able to explain my quote. Go ahead.
Now that you've added your quote, explain why the quote is important. What do you think this means? How does it connect to your thesis?
Good. So, now that you've added it, explain why it's important. How does it connect to your thesis? So let's say Brecken's thesis is that extra recess is a good idea, right? So Brecken now needs to start explaining why he quoted me, why it adds to him. So how could Brecken explain that? How could Brecken explain, I feel extra recess is a good idea? He could say something like what, Levi?
He could say that, I guess, to support that.
Okay.
Is that we don't get enough recess time. We need this is why I say this.
Okay. So he could say something like, this supports the idea that we do not get enough time at recess, period. Even the staff members at LCS feel that it would be more beneficial for us to have a longer recess time. Notice that little sentence that's in the parentheses. It says, your explanation should be at least as long or longer than the quote itself. My quote's only about a sentence long. So Brecken's explanation of my quote needs to be at least a sentence or two. Capiche? Oh, woo! Dragging that thing out. Okay? That's how we quote. That's how we quote different things. So what I'm going to do now is I want you to grab, each table is going to grab a whiteboard and a marker and an eraser, and we're going to practice some quotes together. Okay? So go ahead and grab that, get back to your seat,